All right, welcome back to the podcast. I want to talk about something that's a bug that's been in my brain. Albert Einstein once said a quote, "Compound interest is the eighth wonder of the world. He who understands it earns it. He who doesn't pays it." Right, let's flip that back. So someone that understands compound interest is the one that earns it. Someone that does not understand is the one that pays it. I don't know about you, but I want to earn. So what's interesting is that compound interest, anyone that's interested in personal finance might be familiar with this term, right? Essentially, you invest now, and you're going to earn the benefits of that over a long period of time, right? You invest early, say when you're 25. Over time, the market, the S&P 500 is going to go up, 7 to 10% over the next 50 years. So when you're retiring, you're going to have a lot of money that way. Right, that's kind of the basics. I'll link some info on that. You can read all about it. That's not really what I'm here to talk about. A great example of that is Warren Buffett, right? The vast majority of his wealth has actually been earned after he's turned 60 years old, because all those investments that he made from 18 to 60 started to accrue and compound and really double down. It's a very interesting concept. You can check it out. It's like if you try to double every number, 2 to 4 to 8 to 16, and you do that a number of times, it gets into an absolutely absurd number. So look that up. What I'm talking about today is not really personal finance, though, right? Compound interest applies to everything in life. Your relationships, your job, your income, your health, literally every aspect of your life, right? So let's take a few common situations. Someone wants to lose weight. They want to get healthier, right? They might start working out at the gym, every day. They might start a crash diet for a few weeks where they're just having juices all day long. A few weeks from then, they stop, right? They run out of nutrients. They start slamming down cheeseburgers. They stop going to the gym, and then before they know it, they're back at that same weight they were at. The job hopper, right? You feel like you're underpaid, you're overworked. You take a new job, different company, $5,000 more, great. The next year, you do it again, another $5,000, great. You keep doing that over and over again until you really dilute yourself. Where your colleagues stayed at the same company, they believed in that business, they believed in the company, it was the right company, that's important. And over time, because they were so invested, they did the right things, they actually jumped way over you in terms of income and enjoyed their journey there. Right? Let's even talk about the player out there, right? In relationships, the guy that has the new girlfriend every week. He's like the Jerry Seinfeld, this one is, doesn't look right, and this one's too funny, and this one's not funny enough, and all that stuff, right? And, that's, following the other two scenarios, you can see how that might crash and burn and leave you lonely, in despair. So with that, I want to talk about the compound interest and how that can help us in all of these different buckets, right? And playing the long game. So, two questions, right? So, one, why do we play short-term games? We all know someone that does these types of things, and I would bet that everyone listening, including myself, plays short-term games in at least one bucket of their life. Financial, personal, relationships, health, your job, mastering a craft, whatever it may be, right? So why do we play these games? And then second, Tom, what is the alternative? So I'll get quick into why we play the games. Essentially, you can look up some research. I'll link it here, but we work off at an emotional and a logical part of our brain, right? So when presented with a cookie and a chunk of broccoli, the emotional part of us says, let's eat that cookie. It's going to be delicious. The logical part in our brain says we should eat the broccoli. We're going to feel better. We're going to look better. It's better for us. So at certain parts, it's really which part of your brain is going to win out in those scenarios. Do you work out or do you sleep in? Do you send the extra email or do you go home? Do you eat the cookie? Do you eat the broccoli? Do you scroll on Instagram for the 27th time or do you go take a walk without your phone? Right? Sometimes we win these battles, sometimes we lose them. Right? So there's a lot of reasons that, again, I'll link it for some research that you can check out on why you might make a certain decision at a certain time. A lot of it has to do with, you got to be getting the right amount of sleep. You got to be thinking. You got to be have good relationships. You got to be opening your mind and reading and things like that. Things that we know that we need to do. But what's the alternative, right? What's the alternative to that cookie? What's the alternative to scrolling Instagram? What's the alternative to losing our temper, to sleeping in, right? To not doing what we're supposed to do, to pushing off till tomorrow, right? If you're here, if you're listening, if you're watching on YouTube, thank you. But you're probably a millennial, right? Either in age or in spirit. And let's just say you're like me, 26 years old. Logically, we could be on this planet for another 60, 70, 80 years, right? That is not out of the realm of possibility when how science is going to get. It could be even more than that, right? So let's say we're going to live to 100. I got another 74 years left. I'm barely a quarter of my life in. Even those of us that might be my parents' age or, the next generation and the baby boomers, you're halfway through. You're in you're 50 or you're 60. You still have half of your life left, right? So relatively, we have a lot more time than we give ourselves credit for, right? So if we go back to those original scenarios, right, if you take some of that cash and you invest it slowly, like we already know from the Warren Buffett scenario, that's how you're going to build wealth, right? If you, instead of trying to go on a crash diet and only drink juice for 3 weeks, if you just say, hey, I'm going to go to the gym 3 days a week for the next year, or for the next 5 years, well, you're going to end up looking really good and feeling really good and being healthy, both mentally and physically. If you find the right company, whatever that is, and you wrote yourself a contract to stay there for 3 years or 5 years, you're going to be in a really good spot. If you have a relationship with someone, you think it can go the distance, you think there's something there, don't opt out. Be vulnerable. Get deep in there. If there's something that you want to get good at, if it's writing, if it's podcasting, if it's riding a bicycle, if it's running, whatever, commit to it. Commit to it for the long term. Put in the work that it takes to get there. We're not taking shortcuts. We're not looking on lifehacker.com. We're doing the process that's going to get us the long results over the long term, right? So I recently heard a famous investor, Naval Ravikant, I hope I said his name right, talking to Joe Rogan, and one of the things that he said on his own podcast was, a way to build wealth is playing long-term games with long-term people. I like that. Playing long-term games with long-term people. So let's flip that equation a little bit. First, we need to find the long-term people, or we need to find a long-term goal. We need to find something that we can think long-term about, right? This could be your boyfriend, right? This could be the company you're at. This could be a goal to be just healthier, right? This could be a craft that you're working on. All these things that I've mentioned before, right? So once you pick that 1 or 2 or 5 things that you can be long-term about, and it's not going to be that many. It could be maybe 5 at most. Then it's time to play a long-term game, right? And when I say long-term, I mean it, people. I mean 10, 20, 30 years, right? I'm reading or I'm listening right now to Keith Richards' audiobook. Keith Richards, lead guitarist for the Rolling Stones, my favorite band of all time. And he dropped a line today and he said they played for 4 straight years when they were assembling the band and kind of trying to make their name and things like that. And they went 4 straight years, and he thinks that they took 10 days off from performing live, right? 10 days in 4 years. And they didn't even hit where they wanted to be. It took years and years and practice until they got to where they wanted to be. And that's just one example. You know the 10,000-hour rule. You know that it takes time. Lionel Messi, one of the best soccer players of all time, maybe the best, said, it took me 17 years and 114 days to become an overnight success. 17 years and 114 days to become an overnight success. That's compound interest right there. Right? So when you're playing the long game, right, what does that mean? That means that annoying small task at work, you ignore that, right? You know that this place is a rocket ship, you keep it going. That voice in your head that's saying, maybe you only need to work out 2 times this week instead of 3, you ignore that, right? Or maybe we should have that donut for breakfast. You ignore that. You already made a promise to yourself. You're okay scrolling past that get rich quick scheme on Instagram, right? You're good, right? That's not appetizing to you. That's not tempting. Because you're playing long-term games, right? When they're playing checkers, you're not only playing chess, you're becoming a master at it. You know that like a little leprechaun, all the gold is on the end of the rainbow. It's not here. It's not right in front of your face. You know it's at the end of the journey. You know, the long road, right? The long road's where you master the craft. It's where you have the great relationship. It's where you get wealthy. It's where you have health, both physically and mentally. It's where you grow your spirituality. It's where all the good things that happen in life come on the end of the long road, right? And I'm coming at this from someone that is at the beginning of that long road, right? So, you know, my close friends, you know, the relationship with my girlfriend, the company I'm at, I'm trying to build skills in podcasting and in writing. I'm working on my health, you know, physically and mentally and trying to learn. And, you know, they say that the best time to invest was 10 years ago, right? And the second best time is right now. So find what those long-term games are, whatever it is, or those long-term people, the long-term craft, and play long-term games there. You're good with losing today. You're good with the failure that's going to come along the way because you're playing the long-term games. And there's so few people playing those games that's why you accrue so much success. So many people will give up and sell short a week in, a month in, a year in, 5 years in, but you're playing the long game, right? So make sure that it's something that you're going to play long-term, and then play it, man. Play for the compound interest. You know that it's going to be a long time to become an overnight success. So that's the thing that's been on my mind all freaking week. So if you found any value in that, I love you. I appreciate you. Subscribe. Give me a review. I'm doing a lot of work right now on the newsletter weekly. So hit me up, millennialmomentum.net. You know where to find me, at Tommy Tahoe, all over the interwebs on social media. Love you. Thank you. Share this out. Play long-term games. Out.